It's been a long day. Yeah, Rose fell asleep. Now finally we can get some rest. Who is that? Help me! Help me, my husband is going to kill me and my daughter. Help me! Raymond, stop. Don't open the door. You know what she told us today. Annalise, are we going to believe in these crazy stories and not help this woman? She's standing out there in the cold with her child. Who knows what trouble she's in? Raymond, please, don't go. Annalise, instead of stopping me, go and check on Rose. Where did she go? She was right here. I'm here to help. You don't have to worry. Where are you? Lake. Rose. Rose. She took my Rose. Raymond and Annalise Stewart recently bought this house and moved to the quiet, peaceful town of Perrault Falls, Canada, with their 4-year-old daughter, Rose. The house was beautiful, a walking distance from the lakeside, and the community was welcoming. After settling down, the couple had hosted a housewarming party and invited their neighbors. A handful of people came with gifts and homemade cakes and pies and were very kind to them. There was a certain woman who had been especially kind and played with Rose much of the afternoon, but it was some time into the evening. She looked rather worried as she spoke to Annalise and Raymond. You have a wonderful family and a wonderful home, but be careful with your child. I don't want to scare you, but you should know, something unusual has been happening in this neighborhood. Children have gone missing here. If you ever find a woman knocking on your door at night with her child, don't open, no matter what she says. Whoever's door she knocks, those families have lost their children, so be careful. Raymond hadn't given the woman's words any importance, but now that it happened in front of his eyes, he was distraught in anxiety. He couldn't understand how it happened or what he saw. The parents immediately reported the police, and a search was conducted throughout the neighborhood, but Rose was nowhere to be found. In this brutal winter, the police had even arranged to search the woods and the lake, but they could find no sign or clue. The parents told the police about the woman they had seen, but the police brushed it off as a rumor that had been spreading in town. Raymond himself tried searching everywhere, speaking to everyone, but it was of no help. Rather, he discovered those who had gone missing before had never been found. And now it had been almost a week since, and there was no news of Rose. Raymond, bring back my daughter to me. Bring my Rose back. Annalise, I'm trying. We'll find her. Unable to see his wife crying in grief, Raymond left the house and walked out into the heavy snow. He felt so devastated and helpless. What am I going to do? Where am I going to find her? Walking down the snow-covered path, Raymond walked towards the lakeside, spotting the single house there. He had heard it belonged to Mr. Ariel Powell. His daughter was the first to have gone missing, and then the man lost his wife as well. Bearing the freezing winds, Raymond walked to the house and knocked on the door. Within a while, Mr. Powell opened up. Hello. Hello. I'm Raymond Stewart. I recently moved nearby with my family. Yes, I know. I'm Ariel Powell. Please come in. The snow is quite heavy tonight. The storm will start soon. The man was kind and welcoming. Stepping into the house, Raymond looked around to see it nearly empty, a table and sofa. However, many antique pots and vases decorated onto shelves, and to the corner a large bookcase filled with books. Mr. Powell threw a log into the fireplace. Have a seat. Let me get some coffee. As he headed off inside, Raymond heated up his hands by the fire before he looked around, stopping at the bookcase. There were so many kinds of books: fiction, history, chemistry, biology, even cookbooks. Within a while, Mr. Powell returned with 2 mugs of coffee, and he and Raymond sat down. You have a nice collection of books. Thank you. Please enjoy your coffee. Raymond picked up the mug, intrigued by the design. This is a nice mug. It's quite light. Yes, they're made using an ancient Chinese method. I actually made it myself. It's a hobby. Raymond took a sip of the coffee, quietly looking out into the pouring snow, listening to the winds howl. He didn't know what to say, where to start. But seeing his silence, Mr. Powell spoke up. I can understand what you're going through. I've gone through the same, but don't lose hope yet. Did you also see her? No, but my wife did. I wish if only I had listened to her. What am I supposed to do now? Where will I look for her? It's been almost a week. I really don't know what to tell you, Mr. Stewart. Look at my house. It wasn't always like this. I had a perfect family, a loving wife, a beautiful daughter. But now, all I have are regrets and remorse. After speaking to Mr. Powell, Raymond could sense the man was very lonely and depressed, and tried to offer him some company. As the skies started to darken, Raymond put down the mug. May I use the restroom? Sure, it's down the hall, last room. I'll go rinse these off. As Mr. Powell went off to the kitchen, Raymond walked down the hall, peering inside to the now empty rooms. He sighed as he stepped into the bathroom and turned on the tap. He didn't know why he was feeling so anxious and lightheaded. It was even getting difficult to speak to Mr. Powell. Raymond splashed some water onto his face, but as soon as he stood up, he started to feel his head spin, and soon everything went dark in front of his eyes. Daddy, wake up! Wake up! Raymond woke up startled, hearing his daughter's voice. He opened his eyes to find himself tied up, and Rose too, tied up next to him. Rose, sweetheart, where are we? That man brought me here. Raymond looked around. They were in the basement. Ahead of him, a table set with a potter's wheel, some tools, some dishes and utensils, and a burning kiln to the side. All of a sudden, the father and daughter heard a sound as the basement door creaked open and footsteps walked down the stairs. You finally woken up, Mr. Stewart? The coffee was a bit strong, wasn't it? Who are you, and why are you doing this to us? Why am I doing this? 10 years ago, Ariel Powell had completed his studies in Peralta Falls, his hometown, and had gotten engaged with his girlfriend Joanna. Soon after, he landed a good opportunity in the city, teaching anthropology at a university, and moved there, visiting back every few months to meet Joanna. But it was on one winter break, when he returned to town, expecting Joanna to be excited to meet him. He was surprised when she was suddenly so distant from him. She didn't pick up his calls. When he went to her house, she made excuses to avoid him. Ariel was worried, thinking she was upset with him, but he didn't know why. Was it because he hadn't come back in a long time? It was one of these days, while Ariel was on his way out to meet her, that he spotted Joanna hanging out with some other guy. Ariel was deeply troubled. So he went to Joanna's house and waited to speak to her. It was late in the afternoon. When she returned, she found Ariel speaking to her mother. "Joanna, come here. Where are you going?" "I'm tired, Mother. I'll be in my room." "What do you mean you're tired? Ariel's just arrived and you haven't even gotten the time to meet him." That afternoon, Ariel had finally gotten Joanna alone. "Joanna, we need to talk." "What?" "Who was that guy you were with?" "Were you spying on me?" "No, but I have a right to know. I'm your fiancé." "He's just a friend." "Why have you been ignoring me? Is everything okay?" "Ariel, I'm just exhausted. I need to be alone right now." Since that day, Joanna had become even more distant. And Ariel was stressed about their relationship. Now, he wasn't even sure if the marriage was still on. They rarely spoke and rarely met that winter break. And Ariel was off to the city again. But it was one night, months later, when Ariel had returned to Perrault Falls, that Joanna had come to his house, her eyes red and teary. "Joanna, what happened?" "I'm sorry, Ariel. I'm sorry. I cheated on you with him, but he lied to me. He left me. Please, forgive me." Ariel was hurt, but he forgave Joanna, and the two got married. It was soon after they had a daughter, and Ariel tried to make the best out of his married life. But Joanna was never close with him, and Ariel often doubted if she even loved him at all. Nonetheless, he continued to try to make her happy. He was still working in the city, and would frequently be traveling throughout Canada to various cultural and native sites for his anthropology research programs. But even through his busy schedule, he would write letters to Joanna or sometimes call her. But in all the struggle, when Ariel had returned home early from a trip, that he discovered Joanna had been having a secret affair with her boyfriend while he was away. "Joanna, how could you do this to me? Does our marriage have no value to you? We even have a child together. Won't you think about our daughter?" "Our daughter? You're a fool if you think she's your daughter. She's not your child." "What?" When Joanna confessed her biggest secret in a rage, she didn't expect it would make Ariel so furious. In the heat of the moment, that night, Ariel had taken her life. Mr. Powell walked to the table and began arranging the bowls and plates, before he picked up a knife and started sharpening it. It was on one of my trips into the Caribou Woodlands. Almost 10 years ago, I was camping out with a colleague of mine. Without telling me, he served me human meat. I still remember the taste of the first time I had human flesh. It was amazing. It's been since then that I've had this strong craving. The tastiest meat is that of children, and then of women. Mr. Powell poured out some wine into his mug. "And the coffee mug you were praising, it was made by my daughter's bones. It takes a lot of work to make bone china. had to grind it, mold it, and finally fire it in the kiln. Raymond listened to Mr. Powell, horrified and shocked. "You ate your own daughter?" Mr. Powell chuckled. "All those antiques you saw, they were all someone's son or daughter." "You're disgusting and inhumane." Mr. Powell brought the knife to Rose and cut the ties off her hands. "Your daughter too will become a beautiful piece of art and live forever. Let her go." "Daddy! Daddy!" Raymond was horrified as Mr. Powell pulled Rose away and laid her onto the table. "I was saving her for a special night like this. There's nothing like roasted meat and wine on a stormy winter night." But it was just as he was tying Rose down that he suddenly heard a voice from the shadows. "Dad, please don't hurt her. She's my friend." Ariel froze as he looked up to see his daughter walk out from the darkness. No, it can't be. And following her, many other children. As Ariel stepped back in horror, he heard another frightening voice behind him. You can't escape now." Ariel turned to see his wife walking towards him. "Joanna?" The police arrived at Ariel Powell's house sometime around midnight. Rose and Raymond were safe and sound. But Mr. Powell was found lifeless, his body in conditions as if he had starved himself. Piecing together all the information and evidence found at the residence, the police discovered the bodies of the missing children and finally closed the case. And Raymond, he finally brought back their daughter to his wife. "Mommy! Rose, my baby, how did you find her?" "I didn't. Rose, who was she?" "My friend." "Who are you talking about?" "Annalise, that woman and her child. She didn't come to harm us. She had only come to warn us."
Click on the subscribe button and check out more awesome videos on our channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon because you know it's interesting.
"Guys, also pass it to me." "Yeah, sure. Here, catch the ball." "Shoot, how are we gonna get it now?" "Don't worry. Kevin is our hero. He'll bring it for us." "But it's cold and wet. I don't want to go." "If you go, we'll let you join our game." "Okay." "Hey, you got the ball. Finally, they'll take me in their game." "Why? They don't let you play with them?" Why are you blue?" "Here is your ball." "It's almost evening. Where did that boy go?" It was late, and Lisa was worried why her son Kevin hadn't returned home. Just when she heard the doorbell. "Kevin, I told you to come home before dark. You got me so worried." She noticed something off about her son. "Kevin, you're shaking. And why are you all wet?" Pulling him inside, she quickly took off his jacket. "You're freezing." I fell into water. "Hurry, go dry up and change your clothes." Lisa stirred up a hot cup of cocoa and sat Kevin by the fireplace. "Now quickly, drink this." She then hurried to finish up cooking dinner. Just when Richard arrived home from work. "You won't believe what your son did today. He came home soaking wet in this cold." "Probably snowball fighting with his friends. He's just a kid. We did all sorts of things when we were young. Let's just hope he doesn't catch a cold." After a warm dinner that night, the family went snug to bed. The next morning, Lisa got up to whip up some pancakes, but almost 10 minutes into pouring her pancakes out on the pan, it was still raw. That's strange. Within a while, Richard woke up and went to check the thermostat. "Richard, last night it got so cold, and now something's wrong with the stove. The thermostat seems fine, but the stove?" Richard increased the flame, but it was of no use. "I've never seen anything like this. It's like the fire isn't giving off any heat. Use the electric burner for now, and I'll see what I can do later." As the couple tried figuring out the issue, Kevin walked out dressed for school. "Kevin, are you alright? Did you feel cold last night?" "Yeah, I'm fine." "It's getting late. I don't think I'll be able to get breakfast ready like this. Kevin, have your breakfast at school, okay?" "Okay." After Richard and Kevin left, Lisa went around cleaning up. But when she stepped into Kevin's room, she was shocked by a cool breeze. It seemed as if the entire room had been frozen. There were dripping icicles on the corners of the walls. The windows were wet and misty. How did this happen? After school, Kevin headed to the lakeside park again. "Hey, where are you going? You want to play with us?" Alex picked up the ball and threw it out on the lake. "Go, bring it, and we'll take you in our game." "No, I found a better game." "What game?" "Building the Iceman." When Richard returned home late that afternoon, he was surprised by Lisa's condition. "What happened to you? You've turned blue. It's not even cold out today." "Yeah, but the house has been pretty cold all day." Richard went to check the thermostat again, but everything was fine. "Maybe we'll need to bring in a technician. Where's Kevin?" "He's not home yet." Within a while, the bell started to ring. Lisa opened the door to see Kevin panting as he walked in. "What time is it, mister? Where were you?" "At the park." "From today onward, you're not allowed to go anywhere after school. You will come straight home." "No, I have to go to the lake." "Lake? What were you doing by the lakeside?" Richard suddenly called out Lisa. "Lisa, check the news." 3 local boys from the BII elementary school found frozen to death at the lakeside park this evening. What is happening in this town? "So this is what you and your friends were doing. That's why you came home all wet that day. This could have happened to you, Kevin. There is no way you are going by the lakeside again." Gritting his teeth, Kevin stormed off to his room. That night, the parents went to bed quite concerned. The news had greatly disturbed them, and they couldn't think of any explanation of what was going on in their home. And sometime in the middle of the night, Lisa woke up feeling tremendously cold. She was overawed to see the windows frosted, icicles forming on the ceiling. Her fingers had become frigid. "Richard, get up. It's too cold," she said as her breath became misty in the air. "I'll go start up the fireplace. You go check on Kevin." Richard rushed to the living room, throwing some logs into the fireplace. But when he tried to light a match, it wouldn't work. He then went to light a piece of wood from the stove, but even the stove wouldn't turn on. He couldn't even get a spark. "Richard!" Just then, he heard Lisa cry out from Kevin's room. She had found Kevin shivering under his blankets. His skin had turned blue. "Mom, what is happening?" "It's nothing, sweetheart. You don't worry." Lisa got out the thermometer. "What happened, Lisa?" "Richard, his body temperature is falling. I can't warm him up. We have to take him to the hospital." In a panic, the parents wrapped Kevin in blankets and hurried him to the hospital. But when doctors diagnosed him, they were bewildered themselves. They tried every method to bring up his temperature, but things seemed to be going the other way. In fact, the room had gotten cold. "Doctor, what is happening to our son? We really don't know what is going on, but if his body temperature keeps falling like this, he won't survive. What is surprising us is how he's still alive." Late that night, when Kevin's nurse, Maria, went to check up on him, she was shocked to see the IV administered into Kevin had begun to freeze from the tube in his arm up to the saline bag. "Harry, there's a boy in our ward. Something strange is going on with him. You might want to take a look." "In your ward?" "Maria, I'm not a doctor yet. And anyways, I'm not pursuing a medical doctorate." "Stop it, Harry. I'm not joking. You have to come." Maria and Henry Connery met at college in a few of their same courses while she was pursuing her nursing degree. It was during this time that Henry had taken a trip to Cape Flattery in Washington, and something bizarre happened with him. I hit my head on a rock and started bleeding out, and I saw something. I closed my eyes and all of a sudden, the injury healed. "Are you telling the truth? Did you really hurt yourself, or is all this a prank, Harry? Because it's not possible you healed in a matter of seconds." "I know, but it did happen." It was ever since that experience that something strange happened to Henry. Something changed for him. He perceived the world differently. He was able to hear, see, and understand things that he wasn't before. He could observe things that he couldn't observe before. Upon getting Maria's call, Henry caught a bus ride to Michigan and reached there on a bus ride to Michigan and reached there on a bus ride to Michigan, 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 a bus ride ride to Michigan, a bus 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 ride. Hey buddy, I'm Harry. I'm going to watch over you tonight. I'm Kevin. Kevin, did you by any chance know those that were found by the lakeside park? Were they your friends? They weren't my friends. They always used to make me get the ball and they never took me in their games. Why don't you try to rest? For the first part of the night, everything seemed fine. But it was suddenly around 2 a.m. Henry began to feel a chill. The temperature began to drop, and in just merely minutes, the room was freezing. The windows were frosting ice. Henry felt like his body was freezing up, and he was having difficulty breathing. And as his limbs started to cramp, Henry fell down. Struggling to get up, he was shocked to notice a young girl standing beside Kevin. Before he fell unconscious. Early that dawn, Maria came to check on them when she found Henry on the ground. She helped him up and splashed water on him until he finally returned to his senses. Harry, what happened? Are you all right? Yeah, I'm all right. We have to hurry, or else we won't be able to save this boy, he said as he rushed out. Where are you going? There's something I need to do. That morning, Henry went to the local police station. Hi, I need some information on a missing person. And what do you need that for? I may be able to solve a missing persons case. Come with me. One of the officers took Henry inside to the archive. It was a girl. She was about 8 years old, had brown hair, green eyes. Looking through a few files, Henry stopped at one. Name, Sarah Miller. Reported missing, December 20, 1973. Age 8. Noting down the address, Henry went straight to the Miller's house. Hello, I'm Henry Connery. Is this the Miller's house? Yes, I'm Mrs. Miller. I presume you're the mother of Sarah Miller? Yes. What is this about? I have some information about your daughter. Come on in. John, come quickly. Henry explained everything to Sarah's parents and requested them to come meet Kevin at the hospital that night. That night, Henry introduced himself to Kevin's parents. Hello, I'm Henry Connery. I'm a friend of Kevin's nurse. I think I know what's going on with your son, and I may be able to help. What has happened to him? Everything will be disclosed tonight. I just need you to allow me to be with him. In their last hopes to cure their son, Lisa and Richard stepped out along with Mr. and Mrs. Miller. They watched anxiously as Henry sat in the room looking at Kevin. At around 2 a.m., he began to notice the temperature fall again. It was difficult to bear the cold, but he patiently bore through it until he finally saw her appear. The young girl stood beside Kevin. Hello, Sarah. This time, the girl walked around to him. Who are you? That's when the door opened and Mr. and Mrs. Miller stepped in, shocked to see their daughter after so long. Sarah? Mom? Dad? What happened to you, Sarah? I looked everywhere for you. Mom, Dad, I'm sorry I didn't listen to you. Nearly 10 years ago, Sarah used to go to the lakeside park every day, where she played by the bank. It was one chilly winter day. The lake had formed a new layer of ice. Excited, Sarah walked onto it. But as she walked further, suddenly the ice broke apart, and she fell in, unable to swim, and unable to even call for help. Sarah drowned, and her body was never found. Mr. and Mrs. Miller got a sense of relief after years of agony, but seeing their daughter like this, they knew they had to let go. Sarah, we love you, and we will always miss you. All these years we've been wondering what happened with you, and now we know, but you have to let go of Kevin. Okay, Mommy. With that, Sarah disappeared. The room began to warm up. And Kevin opened his eyes. His skin regained its color. How are you feeling, buddy? I feel warm. Lisa and Richard rushed in and hugged their child. Kevin. They looked at Henry in gratitude. Thank you so much. Is our daughter going to wander like this for eternity? No. Over there, you'll find her body. After more than 10 years, Sarah Miller was rescued from the lake. Her body had been frozen blue, but still intact. And finally, she received her burial. Finally, she's free. She's in a better place now.
Click on the subscribe button and check out more awesome videos on our channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon because you know it's interesting.
Thomas, what are you doing? It's nothing. It was a cold, windy, snowy evening, a few days after Christmas. Professor Connery was out shoveling the snow from in front of his house when he noticed a taxi come to a stop. A woman rolled down the window and looked at him. Excuse me, are you from this neighborhood? Yes, I am. Do you by any chance know Professor Henry Connery, where he lives? Well, yes, I am Henry Connery, and this is my humble abode. The woman got down from the taxi in a hurry. Professor, I'm Mary Wilson. I really need your help. I read your article about the Aztec death whistle. You've got to come with me. What is this about? It's my family. Their life is in danger. My husband and my son. All right, let the taxi go. We can drive by my car. But how is your family in danger? Professor Connery opened his gate and escorted Mary towards the house. It was tremendously cold and the winds were picking up. Professor, it all started on Christmas Eve. My husband Thomas, he's an archaeologist and he often has to travel on the job. When I first met him, he had just come out of a serious relationship with his ex. But soon we connected, and after a couple months of dating, we got married. And now we have a 7-year-old son, Daniel. On Christmas Eve, we had all just returned home. My son and I were sitting by the Christmas tree. Daniel was looking through all the gifts when he started opening one of them. Daniel, aren't you going to wait for Dad? Dad's going to take forever. I noticed the gift in Daniel's hand had no label on it. Whose gift is this, Daniel? It was delivered earlier today. I brought it in. Inside, there was a small carved figure. Scary. What is this? Looks strange. Who could it be from? Maybe it's from one of your father's friends. As we were looking at it, Thomas called out Daniel to help him on the lawn. Buddy, can you bring out the shovel? I need your help. Okay, Dad. Later that night, when we were all sitting by the fire together, Thomas saw the thing. What is this, Dad? Well, it looks like an Aztec death whistle if I'm correct. What is it for? The Aztec people used to give sacrifices to their death gods, and this whistle was meant to guide the souls of the deceased in the journey to the afterlife. Who would send us something like this on Christmas? Must have been a prank from one of my friends. That night, we had dinner and spent some family time together opening up the rest of the gifts before we all went to bed. But I had a dreadful dream that night. I saw Thomas and Daniel trapped somewhere wicked, surrounded by fire, and something demonic was trying to harm them, feast off of them. No! Mary, what happened? I saw someone was trying to harm you and Daniel. It was just a dream. You heard about the death whistle, it was probably on your mind. That's why you had the nightmare. Relax, it's alright. But it was ever since that night, I started noticing strange things around the house. The next morning, when I went to the kitchen, I found all the raw meat from the fridge scattered on the floor. At first I thought a thief had broken in, but it looked like something had eaten and torn it into pieces. There are many cats around my neighborhood, so I thought it could be one of them, but how could a cat open the fridge? I was confused, and that day I just cleaned up everything and put it aside. But after that, I completely lost my appetite. And that very night, I noticed Thomas had started behaving odd as well. I woke up from my sleep to find him strangely staring at me. Thomas, are you alright? It's fine. I'm just having trouble sleeping. I'll be in the living room. Thomas was awake for most of the night in the living room. The next morning, I didn't find anything odd in the kitchen, and Thomas seemed normal too. But when night fell, I woke up to see Thomas get out of bed again and go out. So I followed him. And what I saw still haunts me. I found him crouched over the meat on the kitchen floor, feasting on it. Thomas, what are you doing? It's nothing. was frightened. I didn't know what to do or say. I couldn't understand what was happening to him, but I knew something wasn't right. I decided to throw out all the meat. But that night again, I woke up to find him staring at me. And a while later, he got up and left, but I didn't follow him that night. The following morning, everything seemed fine in the house. But the minute I opened our front door, I was horrified to see the remains of a cat strewn across our porch. The animal was in a dreadful condition, portions of its body missing as if clawed out. Who or what could have done something like this? Thomas was quiet. He didn't say anything and simply went back in as if he was unbothered. But his eyes, there was something in his eyes. I started to wonder why this was happening, and I realized all this had started ever since we got that death whistle. So I looked more into it. That's when I found your site, Professor. You had written a research paper on the whistle. Long ago, the Aztec people would offer sacrificial offerings to their death gods in order for their souls to peacefully pass over to the Xibalba, the afterlife. They would carve out these whistles from stone or wood and blow into them as they walked over a path of burning hot ember, as a symbol of crossing the bridge of fire to the other side, before they were sacrificed and buried with the whistle. When I read the paper, I understood what happened to Thomas. He had become possessed by the spirit of the one who had been sacrificed. Instead of reaching the afterlife, the spirit reached Thomas and possessed his life. And I'm afraid whatever the spirit is, it will harm my husband, and it will get to my son too. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to save my family. That's why I came here to you. After listening to everything, Professor Connery nodded. All right, I'll come with you. Just give me a moment. Thank you, Professor. Professor Connery went inside and grabbed his car keys. When he came out, he was surprised to see Mary standing out in the snow. Mary, let's go. When they reached their home, Mary walked in to find Thomas pacing in the living room. Mary, where did you go? You had me so worried. Thomas, this is Professor Connery. We need to talk. Please trust me. We need his help. Come inside. Thomas looked at Professor Connery. Are you Professor Henry Connery? Yes. I've heard about you. Professor, please come with me. Professor Connery followed Mary and Thomas into Thomas's study, where she brought out the whistle and showed it to him. Professor, this is the whistle. Taking a look at it, Professor Connery put it down on the table again. I need a chair and some rope. What do we need a rope for? Thomas, I'm getting it, don't worry. Whatever he's doing for our good. So Mary brought in a chair and the rope and handed it to Professor Connery. Mary, would you please sit for a minute? All right. But as soon as Mary sat down, Professor Connery gave the rope to Thomas. Quickly, tie her up. And Thomas immediately did so before Mary could do anything. What is going on? Why are you tying me? Mary, it is not your husband. It is you. You're Look at the weather outside. It's freezing. When you arrived to my house, the driver was shivering from the cold. I was shivering from the cold. But you came in a light jacket and you weren't feeling a thing. You told me your whole story standing on my porch. Not once you wanted to go inside. And when I went inside, even then you stood outside in the snow. No human being can tolerate this much cold, Mary. You aren't yourself. There is an entity within you. Professor Connery is right. These past few days, strange, horrifying things have been happening with you, Mary. The night after you had that nightmare, I woke up to find you sleeping with your eyes opened. I was scared seeing you like that, but I tried to rationalize it, thinking it was because of some sleep issue or some sort of sleep paralysis. But then you woke up and you spoke to me in a distorted, deep voice that wasn't yours.
Thomas, are you alright?
It's fine. Out of fright, I went to sleep in the living room. And on the third night, I noticed you get up from your sleep and go to the kitchen for a while. When you returned, I went to check what you were doing. That's when I found the raw meat half-eaten on the kitchen floor. And a while later, when you came searching for me, there was blood on your face. You had those big eyes, that voice.
Thomas, what are you doing?
It's nothing. When I saw you throwing away all the meat the next day, I was confused as to what was going on. But again, in the middle of the night, I saw you leave. And this time, I heard the scream of a cat. When I went to check on you, I saw you with my own eyes, feasting on the animal. I was shocked to say anything. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. I was considering reaching out to Professor Connery after the holidays were over. Professor Connery picked up the whistle. Do you have any idea as to who sent this to you? I'm really not sure, Professor. There's an inscription here. It's an unholy inscription. Esther, my ex-girlfriend? Before I met Mary, I was in a living relationship with a girl named Esther. We had been together for almost 5 years, but sometimes I wondered why I even loved her. At times it felt like I was spellbound by her. Esther was into some unusual things. She used to have beads, fish scales, strange herbal plants, and scents. I thought it was a hobby, an obsession of hers, and I never took it seriously. But it was one day I returned home and I caught her in the middle of a ritual. She had blood on her hands. The condition of that animal was horrendous. I knew it was nothing but evil. Esther had taken things too far. And that night I broke up with her. And eventually I met Mary. But Esther continued to contact me. She apologized for what she did. She said she would stop, but I didn't want to have anything to do with her. Professor, if this is from her, how can we get rid of it? We have to reverse the curse. When this whistle is blown, it guides the soul of the deceased on the journey to the afterlife. But it has been enchanted upon. It's charmed so that the soul will return to the one who blows the whistle and possess this life instead of passing on to the afterlife. What is this thing? No! Mary, what happened? I saw someone was trying to harm you and Daniel. It was just a dream. Professor, how will we reverse it? We will need Ember. Professor Connery turned off the lights and gathered some Ember and circled it around Mary. He then handed her the whistle. Blow into this. Mary nervously took the whistle and blew into it. And at once, it dropped from her hands as she struggled to stay put in her chair. A thick black smoke released from her and entered into the whistle again before she fell unconscious. Professor Connery immediately picked it up as Thomas caught hold of Mary. Scratching out the inscription, Professor Connery placed the whistle in a wooden box. We have to give this back to her. Do you know where she lives? Yes, Professor. Who kept this here so late at night? No, it can't be. You broke my heart, and now you'll live a happy life? I won't let that happen.
Click on the subscribe button and check out more awesome videos on our channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon because you know it's interesting.